Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode here of Falcons Franchise. We are currently 1-1 here in week 3. We beat the Colts in our first game of the season and then lost to the Jags the following week. Hopefully we're able to bounce back from that tough loss to the Jaguars and win here this week against the Cowboys. I'm going to be playing up through the trade deadline in this episode, so stick around till the end and we might see some crazy trades happen around the league. Okay, so I've just gone through and taken a look at some of the prospects in this class now that we know a little bit more about them and kind of built out my tentative sort of top 5 here. So I think of these players, the best is going to be Kendrick Wimbley. He has B pursuit, A tackle. We look at his physical ratings, they're all quite good. And the other skills, we know he has B finesse moves. So I feel like he's listed at middle linebacker, but I feel like he could kind of play any role in our linebacking core. So that's why I think he's going to be the most useful. However, linebacker I don't really think is as big a need for us as tackle. And so that's why I have the number 1 tackle in the class, Greg Henderson, listed over him. Don't necessarily know if he's going to be a better player than Wimbley. His physical ratings are a little bit worse, especially in strength, which is like very key for tackles. But again, we just kind of need a tackle, and from the skills that I can see, I think I would be fine with him being a tackle for us because Paul Way is kind of unproven and Jake Matthews is an expiring contract and he's currently injured at the moment. We have a much greater need for tackle than we do linebacker. I also have DeMarcus Baisley on here. He would be a fine linebacker that I would take if either of these two are off the board, so that's why he's number 3. Brian Porter is the next best tackle. We might be able to snag him in the second round. The current mock draft doesn't have him in the first, so that's why he's a bit further back. I would really like to grab him. He's a little bit worse than Greg, our guy who's number 1 on our board right now. He's a little bit worse than Greg, but he still seems like he would be passable. And then I have these two guys down at the bottom. I wouldn't want to take them in the first round, really, but they're just kind of on here as like safeties, I guess, if everyone else above them gets drafted. So really the kind of tier 1 players are these two. These two are the tier 2 guys, and then these two are the tier 3 guys, if that's how we want to look at it for now. Okay, so we also get our first chance to take a look at players on our team who are eligible for an extension. And in previous years, we haven't really had a burning desire to bring any of these guys back, but this year there are a few people I want to negotiate with. So right off the bat, we are going to start with Chris Lindstrom. He has been super solid for us. He has barely allowed any sacks. We'll take a look at his stats right here. He's only allowed 2 sacks in 4 years. He's been far and away the best player on our offensive line, so I think it's a no-brainer to bring him back. And we are actually going to stretch this contract out to be over 5 years. That'll save us a little bit of money, and he's definitely a player I would like to keep around for the long term. So we'll see if he agrees to this 5-year, $37 million deal, and it looks like he's going to say yes to that. So we immediately lock up a very key part of our offensive line. We might take a look at re-signing Deion Jones. We'll have to see how he does this year, although I'm leaning towards doing it. I just don't want to give him the money right off the bat in case he kind of falls off, gets injured, doesn't perform super well. I don't want to be locked into that immediately. Jake Matthews is going to be another kind of wait and see. He only wants 1 year, which I would be comfortable with doing potentially. We'll have to see how he does because he's currently injured at the moment. So if he continues to struggle with injuries, we might look to move on, and we're already kind of looking at replacing him in the draft. So he's going to be a wait and see for sure. Same with Jalen Hawkins. If he can repeat the year that he had last year, I'll certainly look to bring him back. But with Tremaine McAllister on the team now, there's not that much of a need to bring back Jalen Hawkins. But if he can be really good for us, I would happily re-sign him, probably for 4 years rather than 2 like he's asking. Matt Hennessy, we're going to try to negotiate with as soon as he's ready, because he's been another really solid offensive lineman for us. And I think we could also look to lock him up to a long-term deal in the similar kind of range that we just gave to Chris Lindstrom. And then everyone after this, I'm cool with parting ways with. Alrighty, getting things underway here in Dallas, Texas for our Week 3 matchup against the Cowboys. And I guess the main storyline for me going into this game is that we've seen two different Malik Willises this year. We saw week one Malik Willis, who was awesome, led us to victory and was super duper solid. And then we saw week two Malik Willis, who was kind of a dud, only had 15 completions on like 40 attempts and two picks, no touchdowns. So I'm just curious to see which one of them is going to show up today. It's going to be tough because there's still no Jake Matthews or Tyreek Hill. So in that regard, our offense is kind of the same as it was last year, minus Jake Matthews. So it's honestly worse than it was. So that's kind of like what we're working with. Defensively, though, we are much stronger. So I think this game is really going to come down to the defense just kind of doing what they've been doing and Malik Willis figuring it out and working with kind of what he's got for this week. So this was definitely a hard-fought game. Malik Willis played pretty well. I don't really have too many complaints. I wish he completed a few more passes, but outside of that, he did well. 2 touchdowns and 177 yards at 50% efficiency is pretty good. However, Dak Prescott was much better. He had more completions, more yards, same amount of touchdowns though. But the Cowboys offense really outplayed us. Ezekiel Elliott was pretty dominant too. Kenneth Walker kind of had his first stinker game of the year. He was under 3 yards a carry. He did have a touchdown, but it was just like a little goal line dive right before the half, nothing too crazy. Malik Willis was looking nice as a runner, though. There was a good stretch in the second quarter where he was able to take off and find space down the field, even get a little physical with defenders, so that was cool to see. Receiving-wise, Alec Pierce, second-year receiver out of Cincinnati, did pretty good. 8 receptions for 110 yards and a touchdown. Amari Cooper was right behind him. If we take a look at our guys, Treylon Burks actually had a really nice game. He had a lot of good catches. He got a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Kyle Pitts was also pretty nice. He had a few nice catches. Dan Arnold had a touchdown. But we're really kind of being hurt with the lack of Tyreek Hill right now. It also looks like Russell Gage wasn't really able to get involved in this game. He wasn't even targeted once. Blocking-wise, Paul Way gave up 2 sacks, which kind of you don't want to see. Now he's at 4 sacks in the first 3 games. Hopefully he can turn it around, but outside of that, the rest of the offensive line was super good. Defensively, Richie Grant was all over the field. He had 12 tackles. Drake Jackson had 3 TFLs. Thibodeau and Terrell each had 1. And then we had sacks, 1 for Thibodeau, and then a combined sack between Richie Grant and Drake Jackson. So great game from Richie Grant, but our defense definitely struggled to contain Dak and Zeke. We didn't have a pick. We only had 2 deflections, no forced fumbles, no blocks, safeties, or touchdowns. So yeah, we ended up losing this game 26-23. The game was a lot less close than the score implies. We kind of made a little bit of a comeback in the fourth quarter with like no time left to really do anything once we got our touchdown that made the game close. So yeah, kind of a bummer game in this one. All right, heading into week 4 at home here against the Detroit Lions. This is a must-win game for us. We don't want our season to get too out of hand. We're 1-2. We'd really like to even that up this week. Big storyline going into this game is Tremaine McAllister got injured again with an ACL sprain in practice this week. So he's going to miss his second game out of 4 possible games so far this year with 2 separate injuries. That's definitely a concern, especially when you spend a top 5 pick on a safety like that. It's not super good if he's going to be out for half the games, which is what's happened so far. But we're going to try to make do without him. I don't think it will impact our defense too much. I think that our guys will be able to step up, and I think we have enough talent to kind of cover his absence. We also really just got to see if the offense can figure things out without Tyreek Hill. He'll be back next week, but we just kind of got to, again, make do for now. It would be awesome to win one of these games where we don't have him, and we don't have Jake Matthews. Also, that's another huge player that we're missing. So hopefully we can figure things out. Again, this is a must-win game. I need to see us win this one. Man, super tough loss to the Lions here. That was a game where we were looking so good. We started off kind of slow. We managed to come back, get a few key stops on defense, force an overtime, score a touchdown with like no time left in the game. The Lions win the coin toss because, of course, I can never win a coin toss in this game. We managed to stop them on their first drive. We get the ball back. We're marching down the field. It looks like we're going to have a chance for the field goal to win the game. And then Malik Willis takes a bad sack in a bad spot, forced us out of field goal range. We then had to punt it. We managed to force them to punt it back to us. And on the first play coming out after the punt, Malik Willis throws a very bad interception right to the cornerback, picked him off when he was looking for Kyle Pitts. He took it back inside the 10, and they kicked the game-winning field goal on the very next play. We definitely had more than one chance to win or tie this game, but we just somehow managed to come away with a very, very tough loss. Looking at the stats, I mean, Malik Willis had a real stinker. 18 for 37, 283 yards. 2 touchdowns was nice. 3 interceptions was not nice. Those really kind of cost us the game. At least 2 of those picks led to points for the Lions, one of them being the game-winning field goal. Desmond Ridder was good. He wasn't like fantastic, but he definitely played a little bit better than Malik Willis and led his team to victory. Kyle Pitts was an absolute monster in this game. I gotta tip my hat to him. He just had so many sick catches and really helped us march down the field in some key moments. Really was crucial in that drive that got us the touchdown that forced overtime, and he was super helpful in overtime too. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to get it done. And yeah, Russell Gage was pretty good. He had a really nice touchdown right before the half. And then, yeah, Kenneth Walker and Treylon Burks also got kind of involved, but we only had 4 receivers catching passes today, which it's the 4 I want, but it's interesting that we don't have a ton of diversity there. Blocking, DJ Fluker had a bad game, but Jalen Mayfield also had a bad game. This is the first bad game we've seen from Jalen Mayfield this year. You know, he's been good so far, so I'm not going to, fault him. I think so far this year and with his time with the Falcons, he's been pretty good, so I'm cool with that. Paul Way, 0 sacks. You love to see it. Deion Jones led us with 9 tackles. Thibodeau was also a force in this game. At times, he looked unstoppable. He had 4 TFLs and 1.5 sacks. He was just looking mean out there. I was really liking what I saw from him. Oluokun also had 3 TFLs, same with Grady Jarrett. And then we have 4 more for the rest of the team. Richie Grant had a pretty huge one, too, on DeAndre Swift, which was really nice. And then in terms of sacks, Thibodeau and Jarrett combined for 3, each of them getting 1.5 each. And then it looks like Drake Jackson also got involved. We had 1 pick for Oluokun. I think that's his 2nd of the year. A deflection for Trey Boston. We did force a really huge fumble, and it was super sick. I did not realize it was Walter Gates, but we forced a really big fumble towards the end of the 4th quarter that got us the ball back. That started our drive that tied the game. It was really nice to see Walter Gates get that done and Thibodeau to pick it up. That was a really, really nice play from us. We did not have any blocks, safeties, or touchdowns. So yeah, really, really heartbreaking loss here to the Lions at home. We really needed to win this game. We could have come away with it, but we just ended up falling short right at the end there. Alrighty, huge game coming up here against the Carolina Panthers. The Bucs are currently 4-0. They're first place in the NFC South right now, and then every other team is 1-3. We're coming off some tough losses, but we are back at full strength now. Jake Matthews, Tyreek Hill, and Tremaine McAllister all return this week, and that's going to be huge because this is going to be a really big game against Christian McCaffrey and the Panthers. They also have a rookie quarterback right now that they traded up for. They traded J.C. Horn, a 2nd and a 3rd. For this guy, I believe his name is Taylor Greenwood. Forget what school he's from, but we'll see how he's been doing so far this year and see if the rookie has what it takes to beat the Falcons today. Okay, this is what I like to see. We pick up the dub against the Panthers in a huge game on the road. We win 30-10, and I really think that the difference between this week and the previous weeks is that we were at full strength. The offensive line felt like it had a little bit more give. Felt like Willis had a little bit more time to throw, and Tyreek Hill is an excellent person for him to throw the ball to, obviously. He was all over the field. He had 100 yards before the end of the first half, and he really helped us kind of drive the ball down the field and get into the end zone. Things started off shaky. Willis did throw a pick on the opening drive, but then our defense was able to come in and force a 3-and-out. And then from that point, we just kind of started rolling and picking up points, and we really led the entire game. Once we forced that 3-and-out, our offense just kind of took over, and we kept scoring and scoring and scoring and piling it on, and the defense kept shutting them out. I think we had a really great game, both offensively and defensively. Looking at the team stats here, Willis was definitely serviceable. He didn't play like super duper well, but he definitely played better than Taylor Greenwood, the rookie out of Alabama. Greenwood threw 3 picks, and Willis only threw 1. And on top of that, he passed him up in touchdowns, 2 touchdowns to 1. So we definitely won in terms of quarterback play, even though we were a little bit shaky. Rushing-wise, we were able to contain Christian McCaffrey pretty well. He averaged 3.8 a carry. Meanwhile, Kenneth Walker averaged 4.1, and he had a touchdown. Jamal Williams also came in. He had 11 attempts for 4 yards a carry, which is nice to see. In terms of receiving, Tyreek Hill was 5 for 104. He led all receivers. I believe that was all in the first half, so he had a pretty quiet second half, but his presence was definitely felt throughout this game, whether he had the ball or not. Russell Gage also played really well. We had touchdowns for Dan Arnold and Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is still the slot receiver, so he's going to be seeing a little bit more time. I like him a lot in that role. He played it super well last week, even though we lost. This week, not so much, so maybe we'll give it one more week before we switch things back and get Treylon Burks a little bit more involved, because I don't think he played at all this game, but we ended up winning, so I'm certainly fine with it. And yeah, the offensive line was certainly pretty good. Paul Way gave up a sack. Again, 1 sack a game is fine. Jalen Mayfield also gives up a sack, so he's up to 3 in the past 2 games. He's starting to struggle a little bit, but we'll see if he can turn things around. Defensively, Walter Gates led us with 9 tackles. You'll have to see that from the rookie. Thibodeau got back there for 2 TFLs. We got 1 for Anderson, Ogunjobi, and Oluwakun too. Thibodeau had 3 sacks, which is pretty awesome. I feel like that happens quite often, so I don't highlight it enough, but I just love seeing that we have a guy who can go out and get 3 sacks a game. Drake Jackson also found the quarterback for 1 sack. We had 3 interceptions, 1 for Deion Jones, 1 for AJ Terrell, and the first ever career interception for Tremaine McAllister. So that's super awesome to see. Glad to see that our rookies are making a big impact kind of early in the season here. Deflections, Grant, Jones, and Gates got involved there. We had 2 forced fumbles, one from the ball hawk, Jalen Hawkins. He forced it and picked it up, and then Thibodeau also forced and recovered a fumble. So we forced 5 turnovers in this game. So I definitely think that, especially because the quarterback play wasn't great from either side, our defense definitely won us this game. Do we have any blocks? No. Safeties? No. And we did not have any defensive touchdowns. So all in all, great bounce back game from us. I'm hoping that we can stay healthy throughout the rest of the season, because it seems like this team can be pretty dominant when we have all of our key players on the field. So Kayvon Thibodeau has gone out and gotten his 2nd NFC Defensive Player of the Week so far this year. He's been making a huge impact on defense, and I just really love the way he's been playing. And I feel like he is definitely the one who's kind of been carrying our team through these injuries and kind of like rough start we've been having. So hats off to him. All right, we got a Thursday night game coming up here against the Green Bay Packers. I believe they went to the Super Bowl last year, played the Browns, ended up winning, but Aaron Rodgers did not re-sign with them. So Jordan Love is their quarterback now. We know that Rodgers is in Tampa Bay. So this is a team coming off of a Super Bowl, but also coming off of losing their franchise quarterback. So they're in kind of an interesting spot, but they've been faring pretty well so far as they're 4-1. We're 2-3, looking to make that 3-3 in this game. I want to take advantage of Jordan Love. Hopefully we can have a similar week that we had last week against the Panthers, where we get 3 picks, a couple forced fumbles. That's what I would love to see. And then also we just kind of need the offense to show up. Hopefully Tyreek Hill can have a big game and we can come away with the dub here. It's going to be a tough 20-17 loss here against the Green Bay Packers. We were in this game at times. Tyreek Hill, again, was looking really nice. Same with Kyle Pitts. We had a chance to win it there at the end. We came in, we got a good stop on defense, forced them to take a field goal that they missed, so we had a chance down 17-20 to go down the field, and they managed to shut us down on 4th and inches. Really, really close play. On third down, Malik Willis had a scramble. It looked like he got across the line. They marked him just short. We tried to pick it up. We didn't even try to challenge it. We tried to pick it up with Kenneth Walker, and he got stopped short, and that just gave the ball right back to the Packers to kneel the game out. This is probably the best game we've seen from Malik Willis so far this year. 19 for 29 with 257 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions. Jordan Love put up some similar numbers too. So both quarterbacks played super well. Aaron Jones was pretty good. He averaged about 4 yards a carry on 23 attempts. He also had a touchdown. Kenneth Walker, 42 yards on 13 attempts, 3.2 a carry with a touchdown as well. In terms of receiving, Marquez Callaway was actually quite good for the Packers. But if you look at our guys here, Kyle Pitts and Tyreek Hill led the way. They both had 6 for 85. Tyreek had a touchdown. Traylon Burks got a little bit involved this week, 2 for 44. Russell Gage had 1 catch for 21, and Dan Arnold got some random catches in there. I thought our offense was super good in this game. It was really, really close. It just came down to that final drive where we couldn't pick up less than a yard to keep it going, keep the chains moving. Jalen Mayfield got injured in this game, so we had to bring in Justin Horn. He gave up a sack and had a pretty costly penalty down the stretch, so that's not super ideal. Our offensive line played really bad in this game. Jake Matthews gave up 3 sacks, Matt Hennessy gave up 1, Lindstrom and Way. So pretty much everyone on the line, minus Jalen Mayfield, who again was injured, gave up at least 1 sack. This is kind of cementing in my brain that we need to move on from Jake Matthews. He's either been injured or bad this year. So I'm pretty comfortable doing that when it comes time for the offseason. Deion Jones and Greedy Williams led the way with 7 tackles apiece. TFLs for a lot of players on the defense, but no one had more than 1. Thibodeau had 2 sacks, Jarrett had 1.5, a sack apiece for Deion Jones and Drake Jackson, and Ogunjobi combined with Jarrett for 1. So at least we got after Jordan Love a bit, but we also did take our fair share of sacks. We didn't get any picks in this game. A couple of deflections for various members of the secondary, no forced fumbles, blocks, safeties, or touchdowns. So yeah, very, very close game against the Packers here. We definitely had some highs in this game and some lows, and it really sucks not being able to come away with the game-winning drive there at the end, because we were looking really solid up until we just could not pick up those inches to gain. So the injury to Jalen Mayfield is going to be a dislocated elbow. He's going to be out for the next 3 weeks, and that's just kind of a bummer. I might look to sign a backup guard to replace him because I really did not like what I saw from Justin Horn in that game. So we may look to sign a backup real quick once next week starts, just to kind of take over, just so we don't have a complete hole in the left guard position. We're going to be bringing in Justin Pugh to start at left guard while Jalen Mayfield is injured, just again to kind of have someone decent playing there while our starter is out. We just don't have to have Justin Horn in there sucking things up. So welcome to the team, Justin Pugh. And then the player that we're going to cut to make room for Justin Pugh is our 4th middle linebacker, Ja'Cory McClellan. I doubt he's seen the field this year, and I doubt we're really going to miss him. So sorry to do it to you, Ja'Cory, but you are off the team now. And we have Justin Pugh starting at left guard. I also want to take a look at our defense, and we see that Walter Gates has superstar development. His dev trait has been revealed. That's pretty huge. 2nd overall pick. You love to hit big on someone like that, not only in terms of overall, but having a nice dev trait. And he looks like he's going to be a very solid player in both of those departments. We're going to mess with his abilities right now. We'll give him mid-zone knockout just because he's our slot corner right now, so he might be playing a little bit more in the middle of the field. So mid-zone knockout seems like a good one, and we can't do any of these other ones until he's an 85. So that's really cool. When do we find out about Tremaine McAllister? Probably after this next game, so be on the lookout for that. Hopefully we can get 2 superstars, but I'm really cool with just getting one of them, and we've already gotten that here with Mr. Walter Gates. Okay, so we're here in Week 7. We're approaching the Week 8 trade deadline, and a trade has gone down between the Raiders and the Vikings. The Vikings are pretty bad right now. They're 1-5, and all of the other teams in their division are at 500 or better. So they're kind of looking to tank. They don't really have the quarterback situation figured out, and there's 2 really good quarterbacks in this draft class. So they're looking to tank and get one of those guys. And to do that, they're going to send Eric Kendricks to the Raiders. The Raiders are fighting for a wild card spot in the AFC West, and they run a 3-4 scheme, so it's really important for them to have two good middle linebackers. So basically, this allows Eric Kendricks to play next to Bobby Wagner in the two middle linebacker spots for the Raiders. They had to swap to defensive tackles to make the money work, and then on top of that, the Vikings are basically trading up from the 4th round into the 2nd round of this upcoming draft. So it's basically kind of a tank move for the Vikings and a move for the Raiders that makes their defense a little bit better and gives them more of a fighting chance in the AFC West. So that's the only trade that's going to happen here in Week 7. Okay, Week 7 against the Texans. This is going to be the last game of the video, so I want to go out with a bang in this one. We are the favorites to win this game. We're an 84 overall team. The Texans are an 80 overall. They, in the offseason, traded for Jalen Hurts from the Eagles, so they're being led by a new quarterback. The Davis Mills era is over here in Houston, and we would really like to win this game because we've got the Bucs next on the schedule. We have the bye week, and then we play the Bucs at home. So we would really like to just kind of pad our season with a victory here before we go into one of our toughest and most important matchups of the season. We're projected to win, so I'd like to win. Alrighty, we get what I wanted. We end the video with a dub here against the Texans. We were pretty dominant in this one. The Texans came out early. They had a really nice first drive. They marched down the field and scored super quickly. However, we were able to answer back on our first drive and match them with 7 points. And then from there, we kind of took over the game, and it ended up being a 37-10 final score here in Houston. Malik Willis was really, really nice in this game. 22 for 33, 288 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts struggled quite a bit. He didn't find the end zone, and he was also just 16 for 29 for 241. So I would say Malik Willis definitely outplayed Jalen Hurts in this matchup. Russell Gage led all receivers. He was 8 for 84. And yeah, I would say that our receiving corps played pretty well today. Tyreek Hill was definitely able to get involved. He found the end zone with a touchdown. Treylon Burks got some catches. Dan Arnold was also involved when Pitts was in the slot. Speaking of Pitts, he was 3 for 37 with a touchdown, so great game from our offense. If we look at blocking, Paul Way did give up 2 sacks, and new Falcon Justin Pugh gave 1 up. But if we get the win, I'm fine with it, really. Still kind of keeping my eye on Paul Way and seeing how he does at right tackle, but so far I'm liking what I'm seeing. Kayvon Thibodeau led the way on defense with 9 total tackles. He also had a TFL along with Drake Jackson, so we only had 2 TFLs. Looking at sacks, 4.5 sacks for Kayvon Thibodeau. His reign of terror across the NFL continues. Oluokun also got a sack and a half, and Jarrett and Ogunjobi each had 1 each. We did not have any interceptions. Walter Gates had 2 deflections, and Darren Gregory also got 1 as well. Greedy Williams forced a fumble and recovered it, so I like that we're definitely forcing more fumbles as a team. We barely had any in previous years, and when we forced them, we were not really able to recover them. So it's nice to see us able to actually fall on top of some of these loose balls here. And then we did not have a block, safety, or touchdown. So I'm super psyched to get the win here in Houston, especially in kind of blowout fashion. And I'm definitely super excited to have a little bit of momentum going into the bye week before we face Tampa Bay. Taking a look at the players of the week, Kayvon Thibodeau picks up his 3rd NFC Defensive Player of the Week award so far this season. I would not be surprised if he wins Defensive Player of the Year again. We'll go through and take a look here. Doesn't look like he has a ton of competition. He's the only player to win multiple, and he has 3 through 7 weeks. So that's pretty cool to see. So we're here in week 8, and we're going to take a look at the most recent mock draft. This one's a little bit more accurate than the first one, just because teams have played and the records kind of reflect maybe what the draft will look like a little bit more. We'll see the top 5 here. It's got the Ravens taking a corner, Bills going with an outside linebacker, Vikings going with the quarterback, which they definitely need. That's kind of the reasoning for the Eric Kendricks trade. They're super bad. I think they're starting Josh Rosen right now over Matt Ryan, who they traded for. So that was kind of a bust for them. They traded for Matt Ryan. He didn't even end up starting. Josh Rosen got the start, so they certainly need a quarterback, and the Titans are looking at that too, and I also kind of understand it. Sure, Tannehill's not super great right now, and then we have the Broncos taking a receiver. Not really sure how I feel about that one, if that's a good fit, but don't really know what their team looks like. Let's look for our pick. Currently has us coming in at 8th, and we would be picking up Greg Henderson. We have him 95% scouted, so we'll take a look here. In terms of skills, B, awareness, I was kind of hoping for A. That's a little bit concerning. We look at his other statistics. I would love to know what pass block and pass block power are, but we'll have to fully scout him to figure those out. Not really liking him as our pick, although we do desperately need a tackle. We'll scroll through and look at some of our other guys that we had favorited. Kendrick Wimbley has fallen down quite a bit. He looks like he's going to be going to the Cardinals. See what we can see about him. Nothing really jumps out to me as being awesome other than a tackle, but that's not super important. I'd love to know what awareness, hit power, and zone coverage are. Man coverage at a C isn't super enticing to me. Josh Lockridge is someone we have favorited. It looks like he's jumped into the first round, and we can see that he looks like he's probably profiles more as like an outside linebacker for us, which is what we're looking for. You can see D, zone coverage, doesn't necessarily spell middle linebacker to me. We know he has B awareness, which is not super duper ideal, and the finesse moves and hit power do look cool though, and A injury is always nice. And then DeMarcus Baisley is someone else that we were looking at. He again doesn't look super awesome. So basically what I'm getting from our prospects at the moment is that there's not really anyone that I'm like in love with as a player. And I think based on what we've seen so far, I'm still happy going Greg Henderson and just filling out a position of need. And he doesn't look like he'll be too bad. I like his like build here at 6'7", 335. I think that's pretty cool. The physical ratings are a little bit questionable. I would like better strength, but the skills look okay. He looks good enough where I would consider taking him. However, I don't really see us picking 8th. I think we're going to finish better than the 8th overall pick this year, hopefully. So we might not even be in a position to take him. All right, so we're here in week 9 on the other side of the trade deadline. No other trades took place during the midseason. The only one was the Eric Kendricks to Las Vegas trade. So rosters should be semi-set now. And yeah, we're looking forward to this next game we got coming up against Tampa Bay. It's going to be a huge one. As you can see, the NFC South is still pretty close. If we can get a win over Tampa, that would be huge for our kind of place in the conference and our place in the NFC as a whole, trying to land that wild card spot. So yeah, stick around for the next episode. We'll play through a couple more weeks here, see how we do against Tampa and some of these other teams we got coming up. I really like what I've been seeing from our team so far this year when we're really healthy, which we are right now. We don't have any major injuries outside of Jalen Mayfield. So I'm excited to see what we can do the rest of this year. Keep it locked here for more episodes of Falcons Franchise, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.